Hey, good morning. This is Dr. Wells, and this is the Word with Wells. And I thought I would share a passage of Scripture from Psalms, the 95th division. Um, as I've been spending some time thinking about what it feels like to be away from church for so long, away from the church building and corporate worship, and even after several discussions about meeting in the park and meeting at um, various times in the building, um, we've just resolved that it's just better to wait. Um, we just don't want to put anybody at risk. And I know there's a lot of controversy around that as a church. I know that there are other churches that are meeting and other pastors that are meeting. Um, um, but it's a challenging um, dichotomy, right? We want to be together as a church family. We want to trust God, and at the same time, we want to be wise. We want to be safe. And although the statistics are saying, well, only 1% of people who catch COVID die. Well, that's okay. That's great. It's a great statistic, but we don't want anybody to catch COVID. Period. And so we're making some adjustments. But what that has done is that it is um, created um, a real emotional, mental um, challenge for you and for me as relates to worship and as relates to our time together as a fellowship, singing worship songs together and praying together and hearing the word, receiving the word together. So um, the psalmist in Psalms 95 offers a call to worship and obedience. And I began to think about this and how we have been called to do this even while we are distancing from each other, while we are unallowed to meet as a corporate group, right? And so verse 6 of the 95th division says, "O come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord, our Maker. For he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand." So this psalm from 1 through 11 um, references the wilderness wanderings, and this is one of those psalms that may have been composed by David, not confirmed, um, for the Feast of Tabernacles. But what it says to me the most is the importance of our of our of our worship, and whether that worship be corporate or not. It does say, "Let us." There's a call for the body, a call for believers to come together. Um, but can we do that while we are distancing? Can we worship? Are we able to worship while we distance? And I would say that we can if we choose to, right? Obviously, on Sunday morning, we provide a time of worship songs for you to sing along, but you have to choose to do that, right? We try to set the atmosphere in preparation for the preached word, but you've got to remove the distractions. You've got to quiet your soul. You've got to quiet your heart. You've got to quiet potentially the home, the house, the apartment, and you've got to set yourself in a mental, spiritual trajectory toward heaven. And to worship means to blow a kiss, to supply a kiss upon. And so to worship God is to kiss, to lavish love on Him. And so that can only be done if we prepare our minds and our hearts to um, um, to think about the goodness of God, to think about the love of God, and it can be difficult in this climate when, I mean, we're dealing with so much. And I had a conversation with a friend, and who happens to be white. I have to make that distinction because in this day and age, it feels like um, there's such polarizing positions between black and whites on some of these issues, and so akin to um, Laura Ingram's from Fox News statement to LeBron James and Kevin Durant to shut up and dribble, don't speak politics, don't get involved in the movement, don't have a voice outside of the basketball court. Some of our Christian brothers, pastors particularly, is saying a similar statement, basically shut up and preach, right? Shut up, don't talk about social injustices, don't talk about racism, don't talk about the atrocities of the past, don't talk about systemic racism, just preach the gospel. Um, that is so offensive. As a black man, as a black pastor who has this history and who lives in a country where the history of African American people have been stamped out, have been smothered, have been denied, have been relegated to some fantasy or fairy tale, or someone will say, "Well, just get over it. It was 400 years ago," and so forth. But there's so many things that have happened to black people that we need to be aware of, and we need to understand that those behaviors and those ideas and those beliefs are contributing to who this country is now. And so, as a follower of Christ, um, it can be difficult to worship. If I admit to you, there are days that I can't even open my Bible, and I know that that's where my hope is, and I know that's where my strength is. And I'm just telling you, I'm just being honest. There are times when I just really struggle. And so I say that to say, when the psalmist here in the 95th division says, come and let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker. That you have to be intentional about that. And, um, I think we're giving an opportunity that we can't fake it. Right? You go to a church service and you don't even have to believe, right, to be in the building and hear the service, And you can hide if you don't want to raise your hands, if you don't want to sing, you don't know the songs, whatever. You don't have to do any of that. But now we have been placed in this situation where it really is exposing us, exposing who we are and what we believe. Not only what we believe about ourselves, but what we believe about God. Because the seventh verse says, "For He is our God," right? And we are the people of His pasture and the sheep of His hand. Today, if you will hear my voice, do not hearken your hearts as in rebellion, as in the day of trial in the wilderness. And he goes on to talk about being in the wilderness, focusing on Israel and so forth. Um, and so today, I pray that this devotional um, is an expression of God's voice to you to worship this Sunday. And maybe you have been exhausted with being on Zoom worship. And, I've got people asking, what can we do with our kids? And, how can we get them back in Sunday school, so to speak? And, man, I'm challenged with that, knowing that they have been on Zoom all week, and then to try to get them on Zoom on Sunday morning. And so just pray. Let's just pray and believe God for what He has, what He would have us to do. Would love to get into the park with some of God's people where there are available facilities and just see your face to face while we social distance and put on a mask and so forth. But let's just pray because we desperately need to worship. We can worship privately. We can worship in our own homes. But my heart's desire is that we have an opportunity to worship together. And so that's our word today. I want to encourage you. Join us tonight for our Bible study through the Gospel of John. This Sunday at 8 and 11, I'll be preaching our last message on covenant. We're talking about hope, the hope that we have in covenant. And we'll be looking at Jeremiah chapter 31. And so God bless you. Have a great day. And hopefully we'll see you tonight on Zoom or on Sunday on Facebook Live and on YouTube. God bless you. Have a great day.